Namaste. Um, I'm Kamlesh Kapoor, instructor for American Hindu Academy, and we are still on course 101, Introduction to Dharma. This happens to be a lesson 11, and we are going to pick up the threads from the last uh, lesson, which was 10. It was about Hindu tradition, how they evolved over about 8,000 years. And now we are going to continue with the next two phases. Now, you may remember the last two slides of lesson 10. In those two slides, we discussed the first phase of Hindu thought and perception of the divine. They started with nature worship, and from there they started worshipping the divine who created this nature and us. But then they did not give it any name, and they did not visualize any form, though they did have visual imagination or imagery for various forces of the nature, but they had no names and forms. So most of the time, as I gave two chants in the last lesson, they have used the pronoun it or that, and both are singular forms, which means that very early on, the rishis and those who laid down the foundations on the observation of Sanatana Dharma, they were very much aware that the Creator is one. There is only one Supreme Being. And that particular point must be understood by everyone, that contrary to the usual and casual mention of the fact that many Hindu gods and goddesses, there's no such thing. The Creator is one and only one. And that is how it was described. In phase 2, they moved on to Brahma, which is divine entity or divine force. It is given attributes, but still there is no name. It is given the attribute as the creator, as the regulating force, or as the transforming, nourishing energy. The devotees and visionaries started worship of Brahma without form, but with all the attributes. A classic example of this is the arati, the prayer that Hindus do at the end of the ceremony, addressing the divine. And it is, the starting line is Om Jai Jagadish Hare, which means that the divine creator, the Lord of all the universes, we are offering our devotion. And in that whole thing, those of you who have the textbook and you go through the entire Aarti, or even on the internet, you can log on and find out the Aarti. And you will see the words ascribed actually to Brahma are that he is full of compassion. He is mother and father as well. And then he is beyond anyone's comprehension, and still within us knows us from inside out. And They have not used the word he, but they are using Jagadish. And then they say that he's uh, beyond any depth that you can imagine, unfathomable. And he's a friend of everyone. And we offer our humble prayers, or we surrender to that divine creator. So this is, we call it there's no form and function, but he has qualities which are very pleasing and helping, inspiring to the human beings, and they can rest on the feeling or the faith in that divine. Then, now here, Brahma without form but has qualities and characteristics, and we may have some other example as well. In Sanskrit, the name is Sagun. Sagun means that he has qualities. Nirakar, it means that he has no form. So, but he has qualities. So this is the second phase that we are talking about. And there is one prayer which is, again, everybody knows, and every Hindu knows. And it is also chanted at the end of the prayer ceremony in the temples and in any gathering, devotional gathering or auspicious ceremonial kind of thing, event. They chant this. It says, Tameva Mata, Cha Pita Tameva, Tameva Bandhu Cha Sakha Tameva, Tameva Vidya, Dravinam Tameva, Tameva Sarvam, Mam Deva Deva. Tameva Sarvam, Mam Deva Deva. It means you are my mother, you are my father, you are my brother, you are my friend. You are knowledge, you are wealth. Vidya is knowledge, Dravinam is wealth. And at the end it says, Tameva Sarvam. You are everything to me, and you are everybody's, but my only Deva. There are hundreds of prayers to Saguna Nirakar Brahma, which we can pick up from different Rigvedic hymns that we chant. So this phase lasted quite a while, and even today, most people who do not have any kind of symbol or picture, they still chant these mantras, and they still have that arati. In other words, while they are working, most Hindu people, they are chanting in their mind or loudly all these chants to Nirakar Brahma. Now, after this phase, we have the first kind of sculpture, more like shrines, as this one in the picture shows. It is kind of etching. Part of the sculpture is in the wall itself, just jutting out a little bit. And this is shrine. It's not a regular temple, but just a shrine. So this is the third phase now. There are three roles that this picture shows. On the right-hand side, the form is not very clear because it's a very ancient sculpture, and it is ancient sculptures are usually weather worn, or there is some kind of dust But anyway, the clarity is here. He has a very soft expression. He is the creative force, right? So this is one phase, the central phase, and then the destroying aspect of the energy of Brahma. So artists express their perception in ornate paintings and elaborate sculpture, and they are strewn in different color marble or sandstone or soapstone all over the country. The three names are mentioned in the Vedic mantras also. In the Rig Veda, mention of Vishnu is there, Mahesh, Mahadev is there, Shiva, and Prajapati is there. So, since the mantras were chanted, there was some visual imagery, but no forms or pictures. Here is now an ancient sculpture, and we do have a form and functions as well, and names. So we'll see another sculpture which was created much, much later. It is Elephanta Caves. And this also has on one side the creative, Prajapati, Vishnu, and the expression on this one, you can see it is a little more awe-inspiring. And this is the destructive force, see? And this has a subtle smile. And this has a calm composure, sustaining and nourishing the entire humanity. So, and these sculptures, both of them, they are almost, hundreds of years apart, several centuries apart. But see the likeness given by different artists from different ages, and the theme is exactly the same. Now, so the concept of Trinity started. It was there, but in the form and names, it started in this third phase. These pictures show the three faces of Brahma, as I said, Prajapati, Vishnu, and Mahesh. So we do have now form and the names and the three main aspects of the divine. What are those names and functions of these three forms? The central form, as you see, is called Vishnu, which literally means all-pervasive. Vishnu is the sustaining and nourishing aspect of the divine. Prajapati, with a soft expression and a smile, is the creative energy. And Mahesh, Shiva, is the destructive power of the divine. I pointed out in the previous slide that there is a little bit of destructive, fierce expression on the face of the right-hand side picture, Mahesh. This and hundreds of beautifully sculpted murtis, sculpted things, have been attracting worshippers and the tourists over centuries from all over the world. And they are unique in the aesthetics, elegance, and the way they are chiseled, some out of a single rock. Mostly they are sculpted out of a single rock. So one can understand that how much loving labor is involved in creating proportions and aesthetics and elegance and ornate image. So now what are the defining concepts of the divine creator? We have come down to this point that how Hindus see the divinity, and right from the Vedic time, they always thought that the creative energy, consciousness and energy source, it is dual, two components. And the phenomena of creation is male, and the force behind the elemental composition is the female aspect. And in all the nature and among the human beings, these two aspects are absolutely scientifically clear. You need two trees, and on the trees, there are male flowers and female flowers. So pollination is done by the male flower, and the female flower bear the fruit. So this is the basic principle. Duality is the basic principle. We call it Shakti, force, and Devas we call the phenomena itself. So the concept of concepts, vibes of Deva, I mean, accompanying reality, supporting consciousness, the energy, we may consider it as wife, the force and the phenomena. Visual imagery in the Vedas is also there. In one of the yajna ceremonies, there is a mention that, O Agni Deva, fire, please invite all the other energies, specific energies, to grace this occasion. And on this occasion, they should have their wives also. So this is clearly mentioned in the Rig Veda. So the idea of duality in the supreme reality is there from the very beginning. And the post-Vedic construct also follows the same phenomena, same tradition or line of thinking. Now it must be clearly understood that at no stage of time Hindu art is considered their own perception to be the only valid one. You see, and they were such, in such a humble, humble characteristic was that none of these artists put their names under their creative art. So nobody knows who was the person. Because once you give your name and your authorship, the ego comes. So the whole idea is the I-ness, the ego, should not be involved in any kind of devotional duty or creation, creative activity or art. So, and they never said that this is the final or mine is the best explanation, because nobody put their name. And they did not expect Hindus to be using these paintings and figures for offering their devotion. Of course, later on they did. People did. But the artists did not expect anything out of that. A couple of millennia back, Murti Puja began. And in the next lesson, we'll clearly explain how did it start and who started. But eventually Hindus also started having replicas of those pictures and statues in their home. Temples were constructed. The main aspect of the temple was that these were teaching places, there were teaching going on, there were discourses, meditational sessions, or yajna ceremonies, and all of this was part. And then inside, they started having the murtis of Supreme Being, and outside on the pillars, other devas, other forces. So we see how over a period of time, visual imagery in the Vedic hymns were accompanied by murtis. For focus, so Brahma with form, function, and attributes create a better focus. Devotees may also see, perceive, feel, and imagine the way they want to. For Hindus, this is the ultimate freedom. They are free to seek and follow any path they choose to, or they may not follow any path at all. Such freedom is very valuable. It is not imposition on anyone, but it is freedom which gives us happiness, liberates us from the other people's um, opinions and coercions. It is self-fulfillment and a unique experience of enlightenment and peace. Eventually, after this lesson, we are going to devote more time on the enlightenment and peace created by the temple atmosphere and by the aesthetics, which gives a very pleasant sensation and experience to the devotees. So that will be our next lesson, lesson 12, and I am looking forward to presenting it after this. And please go over all the previous lessons that you have seen, go over again to find the links between various lessons and see the origin of Sanatana Dharma and how it evolved over the several millennia. Thank you very much and namaste.